Hi, Michael Yardney here, and it's an age-old argument you invest for capital growth or cash flow. While most investors understand the benefits of capital growth properties, some still feel they need cash flow to stay in the game. The problem with this though is it's really hard to grow your wealth with cash flow. You see, it's capital growth, the growth of your investments, that deliver you equity that you need for your next deposit, and it's the steadily increasing rental return from high growth properties that eventually helps you get all the cash flow you need. The problem though is that good investment properties are cash flow negative for the first few years of ownership. That means the rental income that you get is not enough to cover all your market outgoings, your property expenses, your rates, your mortgages, your agents' commission, those things. Now sure, you can claim a tax deduction for negative gearing, but many investors can't afford to or don't want to commit to meeting the cash flow deficit every month, or not out of their income. Look, there's a number of reasons for this. Some are at a high expense stage of their lives. They may have a single income while one partner's on maternity leave, or they may require the cash flow to pay for private school fees, or they may be feeling more comfortable channeling any surplus cash flow they got into lowering their non-tax deductible home loan. Well, there is a way of getting the best of both worlds. There is a financing solution that will allow you to own high growth properties and still service the cash flow shortfall. By the way, there's nothing new about this. It's the way I've been structuring my loans for over 20 years and the way most successful investors have set up their finance. Almost any lender or mortgage broker can do this for you, by the way, but many won't because they don't fully understand the concept. It all has to do with having the right loan structure. Now, just to make things clear, negative gearing is not an investment strategy. It's a result of how you finance your property portfolio. If you had a lower loan-to-value ratio, or if you had no debt at all against your high-growth property, you'd be positively geared. In other words, your rent would be much more than your outgoings. But most of us want to borrow as much finance as we can from the banks. It gives us the ability to buy more properties or bigger properties. But here's the trick. The loan structure I've used for years to manage my negative gearing is what people call a line of credit. This loan facility is essentially like having this big credit card that I can use for any purpose, but I don't. I only use it to pay the negative shortfall of my property portfolio each month, such as interest on the property investment loans or property expenses. And most importantly, I keep it there as a rainy day financial buffer to buy me time if the market turns sour. The good news is, unlike a real credit card, you actually don't have to make any repayments on your line of credit. But of course, any interest that comes on it is added to the balance outstanding, but it's tax deductible if used for the purpose of running your property investment business. However, it's important that you set up the structures correctly to ensure that you can claim this tax deduction, so it's really critical to seek professional advice when setting up the correct finance structures. Of course, you'll be using a common business principle. While borrowing money to pay interest and outgoings goes against the grain for many investors, as I say, it actually is a common investment principle called borrowing working capital. Imagine you bought a new business, I don't know, let's say Gloria Jean's coffee shop. You'd probably go to the bank and say, look, Mr. Bank Manager, can you please give me a loan for the goodwill of the business? And can I also have some money for the stock, for the equipment, for the supplies? And knowing that your business wouldn't be profitable for a few years, you'd ask for some extra money, probably in a line of credit, as working capital for the first couple of years to see you through until the business produced enough positive cash flow for you to survive. There really isn't anything much different from borrowing working capital in a line of credit for the first couple of years of your property investment business, is there? But the trick is that you need equity. You must have sufficient equity in your existing properties to set up this strategy. You've got to use something for collateral for the banks to give you a line of credit. This could be the untapped equity in your home or your existing investment properties. It could work something like this. Imagine you bought yourself a home, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago at $400,000, and today it could be worth $800,000. You probably paid a bit of your mortgage down, so you could easily borrow $225,000 against the unused equity in your home. Now, of this $225,000, you can use $100,000 as a deposit for your new investment property, and you'd borrow the balance of the purchase price using your new property as security. You'd also maybe use $25,000 of your equity release loan for acquisition costs, things like stamp duty and legal fees. Maybe you'd allocate $45,000 to renovate your property, increasing its rental return and manufacturing some capital growth. And that would leave you with about $55,000 as a financial buffer to cover your negative cash flow shortfall for 3 or 4 years. Now, don't get too hung up by the exact numbers. What's important is that you understand the principles. Number one, your untapped equity in your existing properties is a tremendous asset because it gives you the opportunity to invest without you needing to contribute any cash. Number two, rather than gearing to the max, strategic investors take a more prudent approach by building an emergency buffer to buy themselves time to ride themselves through the storms and cover their negative cash flow shortfall. Also, it's important to understand that it's best to set up these structures before you need to, because often this type of loan structure gives you more choices. While you may be able to cover the negative gearing shortfall from your income now, having a rainy day buffer to protect you if interest rates rise, if you have a prolonged vacancy, if you have unexpected expenses, or your situation changes, that's when it's great having this in place. Now, of course, there's a catch. You've got to get the right asset selection. You need investment grade property so you can maximise your chance of enjoying strong capital growth. Sure, the value of your properties won't increase each and every year, but in the long term, the value of your property must increase substantially more than the cost of holding your properties and funding them. Remember, using this system, each year your outstanding loan balance increases as you add the cost of your interest payments to your loan amount. If you don't get capital growth, this strategy makes no sense. So are there risks? Yeah, I see 4 risks involved with this. Number one, rising interest rates. While rates are probably likely to remain low for a while, they will increase again in the future. But this was only going to occur because our economy is doing well and property values will be increasing strongly and the RBA wants to slow down our property markets. Another risk is borrowing more than you can afford. Remember, you're really borrowing 100% of the cost of your new investment property, and then you're going to be borrowing the negative cash flow to service the first couple of years. The third risk is using the funds for something else. I've seen inexperienced investors not having the required discipline. They dip into their lines of credit. They pay for vacations, they pay for toys, cars. I've seen people pay for jet skis, but worst of all is in speculative things like share trading or investing in options. The fourth risk is low capital growth. Remember, we're moving into the next stage of the property cycle where capital growth is not assured for all properties. Again, that's why I suggested that having an investment grade property is critical. One of the great benefits of having this line of credit is that it gives you stability. Some would say it's risky, but in my opinion, a line of credit having it as a buffer gives me consistent financial stability regardless of the ups and downs in the market, locally or world problems, or the bank's vagaries in lending. It buys me time to cover things like interest rate shortfall, allows me to hold my properties till the market eventually picks up. My suggestion is you should build a buffer like this before you need it, because it allows you to be prepared to take advantage when the market changes, when everyone else gets out of the market, that you could actually nab yourself a bargain and an opportunity by using some of your line of credit as a deposit. So get yourself organised in advance. Remember, you need to be proactive with your financial strategy and be in control of your situation before the market changes. By doing so, you're going to ensure you remain sheltered from the next world economic storm. You're going to avoid the panic that many are going to feel when one day again there will be a global or local situation that gets worse. So it's up to you to take advantage of 2015. I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to show you what I'm doing and what I've done and what I'm planning not to do this year at my National Property Market and Economic Update seminars around Australia in 5 states in March and April. Please go to propertymarketupdate.com.au and find out all about these one-day seminars with experts in each state helping you be able to get through the maze of property for 2015.